And the reason that I mention Apple TV Plus so many different times in the last handful of minutes is because the individual, the golden ticket holder for this Friday, she is here. And I would do a breaking news sounder, but I'm just going to go ahead and bring her into the room. Jillian.
Hi, John. So good to see you.
Good to see you. So, all right. So here's, we were getting into the discussion this morning, and goal.com. First off, thanks for crashing the party. And by the way, Greg Garza will be joining us in about 7 minutes. So
fun.
So we can have crossing of the streams with you and Greg this morning starting at 9:30. Apple TV Plus, and I wanted to get into this a great deal with you because of the fun it looks like you're having with a bunch of big boards and TV monitors behind you.
Yeah.
Things. I want to get into that a little bit, but Apple TV Plus did a very, very sly thing. For those of us who are fans of Ted Lasso, and I'm going to slide to my left so you can see my AFC Richmond scarf here in Office HD right there. I'm a Greyhounds guy. I watch Ted Lasso. They're releasing it on Wednesday, the Ides of March, so it does not interfere and break Apple TV Plus because you have a job to do that weekend. And if it was on a Friday, there'd be a lot of folks diving into Apple TV Plus, watching Major League Soccer, watching Ted Lasso. Very, very sly move by Apple TV Plus to sit there and say, okay, we'll release Ted Lasso on a Wednesday. We'll let Jillian have the weekend to do her stuff. What's it been like being a part of this new venture for Major League Soccer?
Well, you're way more up to speed on when Ted Lasso is coming out than I am. I had nothing to do with that decision. It's been great. It's been a whirlwind, and it's been, I'm not a techie. I've never been part of a startup, but I could imagine that this is as close in my life as I'll ever get to being part of a startup for the reason that it's never been done before. And in the weeks leading up to the launch, we were in there rehearsing every day, and everybody was also there 12, 14, 20 hours a day. And there was just boxes and dollies and wheelies coming in and out. And you'd come in one day and that giant studio that you see us in would have grown about 10 years overnight, and it kept happening. So it was really, really fun to actually be there in the chaos of it all. And then on launch night, you would have never known because everybody was just ready to go. But it was really, really exciting. I think what I was surprised at was how natural it felt that, no, we should be doing this and we should be doing these big shows, and how hungry people were for a league-wide wrap-up. Because I think a lot of times MLS fans get this rap that it's so centric. Like, well, Atlanta fans watch Atlanta games and Red Bull fans watch Red Bull games. And of course, like, there's some truth to that no matter what sport you're covering or what team you're covering or what market you're covering. But there's a hunger for overall overarching MLS content that used to exist, right? I think ESPN, Fox had recap shows or etc. And we got so much positive feedback from MLS wrap up, and all that was just us running during a commercial break to just talk about the highlights for 30 minutes when it ended. And that was just our first go at it. So that was nice.
I was going to ask you how much, you mentioned the 12 to 14 hour days. How many, literally, I just have this vision of a lot of lighting, a lot of blocking, a lot of, okay, we need you here, and interacting and all these kinds of things. To me, it sounds like, and I'm like you, being a part of something that would be a startup, to me, there's the excitement that's attached to it. But I think a lot of folks, and I will tell folks that live television, it's what I tell, interns and college kids and high school kids. I always mention the analogy of a dog in a pond chasing after a stick, because, dog, if you got a dog and the dog likes to catch the stick in the water, you throw the stick in the water, the dog gets the stick, the dog's coming back to the shore. And what you see above the water line, you just see the dog with the stick in its mouth, and it's just kind of breathing, doing its thing, and it's getting ready to come back for round two. But what you don't see is everything below the water line, where the dog is just going like this, and and I always think that's live TV. That's the best way that I can describe live TV. You see what you and all the other hosts are doing up here, all the calm, but all of the stuff going on behind the scenes to make sure it looks as effortless as it does. There's a lot of moving parts to make that happen, and even more so with something that's new.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I never thought of the dog and the stick, but for me, it's just been, I like that we're still trying to satisfy every fan base, because I'll give you an example of this week. So LA Portland is at 4:30 Eastern time. And then the West Coast games don't end, of course, until 1 o'clock in the morning. So we won't do MLS wrap up until 1 a.m. So we will start pregame shows at 4:15 to do LAFC Portland. And then we will do 7 o'clock, and then we'll do 8:15, 9:15, 10:15. And I knew it'd be nuts, but it's really nuts. And I like that there's no wavering, that they're like, no, we need to deliver this. And the way it works then is you get like a 15-minute studio pregame show, and then you throw it out to the announcers, who then bring like a 9 to 10 minutes. So you're still giving people almost like a 30-minute pregame show, half from studio, half from site. And that's just the beginning. We'll perfect it and things like that. So that has been really, really nice. And I'll admit too, like, for me, I know more about Atlanta, it's been nice to be like, you need to read up on the San Jose Quakes, which is not a team I've thought much about, for the Vancouver Whitecaps. It's been like a good muscle memory test, because we can get so in our own rhythms that it's like, of course, I probably could say more about the Vancouver Whitecaps than 99% of the population, but that's not enough anymore. So it's been nice. It's kind of been a nice new challenge.
All right. So as promised, as promised. So first and foremost, Jillian, how much longer do I have you here on a Friday morning?
Oh, I'm good. I got time.
Okay, cool. Well, then what we're going to do, we're going to introduce a guy who's putting on his hat on backwards before he comes on. Greg Garza, I believe you may recognize the individual who's having her morning cup of coffee this morning. It's Jillian Sakovits joining.
Sure am. Oh, yeah. There you go.
This is like my sixth one. I was up at 5. Well, I'm up usually every day, like at 5:45. This is I'm on my sixth one right now.
Sixth cup of coffee, dude.
No, I'm just kidding. This is like my third.
But still, I mean, and as you guys do coffee, I could never do coffee. That is Mountain Dew for me, as always. So, Jillian Sakovits, I'd like to introduce you to part of Beyond Goals Mentoring, Greg Garza. And Greg and Parky come on every Friday at 9:30 to talk about anything on our mind in soccer. We talk about mentoring, impacting others, how they rub off with their skill set. So let me ask you, Jillian, let me put you here. What questions do you have of Greg Garza, since you haven't seen him in a while? How'd you like to catch up with Greg?
Me and Greg always stay in touch. Me and Greg always stay in touch. He's a great friend, and also somebody you can always count on. But I want to know from Greg, like, just what's going on in his life that he's up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I will tell you this. So the benefit of mentoring a lot of kids, you do gain close relationships and close bonds with a lot of these kids. And being here in the Atlanta, first and foremost, it's great to see you, Julian, and I'm so happy for you with the new Apple deal. And I know you are absolutely killing it. I get to see you on social media doing all those things. And the next time I am in New York, I will definitely stop and say hello. But I'll go back to a lot of these kids that we create bonds and relationships with, to kind of see them grow and see them develop. And a lot of these kids will ask me, hey, I'd love to do something before school, whether it's going to the gym, going running, doing, right? These kids that are preparing phase or next step. And I'm a guy who can't say no to anything. So I have kids that sometimes come to where I live and we'll work out in the gym at 5:45 in the morning before they go to school. And that to me just shows the extra they have. And that's one thing that I always say within my mentoring is, those are things that I can't teach. Right. And those are things that I knew that I did as a player to kind of continue to build myself to that next step or build myself within that. I'm all about it. If the kid wants to use, knowledge within the game, but also the physicality part of it and understanding to do the extra is what's needed. I will support them in any way that I can. That's what we do. That's just
that is so nice, Greg.
So, yep.
I mean, Greg,
up so early.
Well, and Greg, what's it like when you have this generation want to knock on your door at 5 o'clock, 5:45 in the morning? Because I know that there are folks like me. 5:45 in the morning is just on my way to waking up at like 7:30 or 8. That is just an exit on the interstate for me. That is not something that starts my day. Is this commonplace where you have the current mentee want to knock on your door at 5:45 in the morning?
There's very few. I will tell you that. There are very few. Out of all the kids that we work with, I would say, all of them are dedicated. All of them, they want to continue to build themselves up. And whether it's on the confidence side, whether it's on the soccer IQ side or the soccer brain side. But like I said before, I can't teach those kind of things of wanting to do the extra when nobody is watching. And that's the biggest piece of advice that I can always give kids is, train when no one is watching, train when no one tells you to train. Because at the end of the day, when we try and perfect our craft or improve our craft, it's really in those moments that we don't have too many people around us kind of telling us what to do. You're the one that's making that ultimate decision, that internal drive, that internal motivation that pushes you a little bit more forward and past some of your peers. And that's kind of the ultimatum of making it to where you want to go, is pushing your past. Sometimes those people that are around you competing for the exact same thing.
All right, Jillian, let's talk about Atlanta United since we have a former Atlanta United player here.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Well, after that last game, I left at like the 83rd minute because my oldest son had a game at 8 a.m.
Oh, no.
And he was like, Dad, Atlanta is not going to be good this season. So, just by the 83rd minute of what we watched, I probably could have agreed with him.
But dude, they're packing it in. San Jose's got a 1-0 lead, and they started playing like it was CONCACAF o'clock in the 50th minute. You got folks falling down. They're going to pack it in.
That's me kind of being a little, maybe too brutally honest by the 83rd minute, is that I agreed with my son and I said, dude, let's go, man. Let's get out of here. This is I had very high expectations, and unfortunately what they have shown so far, and I was just wanting something more. And then we left, and I swear to you, the second that I pressed unlock on my car, it was like I pressed unlock and the stadium erupted. All right, well, thanks for getting me out of the stadium too early, bud, but that's all right.
If we learned anything last year, it's that if they're going to win and have some Golasso goals, it's going to be after the 80th minute. But I think in fairness to Greg's son, the fans, everybody chalked that up last year to the injuries, and then it was like, oh well, this year now everybody's there, and it'll be. I think there's still like that 2022 identity hangover a little bit of what they were used to, because last year, if they won, they had so many close games. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, and they reminded me a lot of the Minnesota Vikings, who were one score away at one point. They were 10-3, and they were one score away from being a 3-10 team. Mm-hmm. So like Atlanta last year, like didn't do well, but could have been way worse than where they were had they not had like some heart attack last minute games. But I think they still really need to figure out who they are. I think that they can't build around Almada because it's a matter of time for when he's not here anymore. So let's embrace him while he's here. But Luis Araujo needs to be more reliable. Not to call out specific players, but he was heavily paid to come here, and you need to rely on him in those minutes. But I'm on a positive note. It was great to see some guys back, and also to see that Brad Guzan video that they posted with his long recovery. And guys like Miles who have had long recovery. So that's a bright spot for sure. Greg, better than anybody, like great teams maybe don't look the way that they look in March, the way that they're going to look in October.
Most definitely. Yeah, I would completely agree. I think you have so many quality pieces that are in that locker room right now, expectations are going to be very high. I think, like you said, having Thiago around longer, I mean, he's probably at his highest value point as a player right now. And obviously something the organization will be very keen within the next few months of understanding what's probably best for the organization, right? That's Atlanta United has been, grow players into massive deals in the past. And I'm sure he'll probably be another one that will be down that same path. But just coming from the first game, it's obviously great and build on to that the next game again. You want to pick out the positives are with great teams and championship teams and have the ability to find a way to win, no matter what the outcome or chances or the situation may be. And that's what San Jose 2018 San Jose, where it was, I believe it was winning 4-3. Is that the game?
Yeah,
or maybe it was
yeah, definitely. It was MLS after MLS after dark. Yeah.
It's just another example that great teams always find a way to win. Mm-hmm. Talked about it so much before, John, is that I believe the true successful MLS team has to be built around having one or two guys that can change the outcome of a game within seconds, which is exactly what Thiago did. And everybody else kind of has to follow that lead in regards of being workhorses and industrial players. And you kind of have that balance right now with Atlanta. They have a lot of guys that can go in and just be, workhorses of the likes of, the likings of Brooks Lennon, of Miles, of Andrew Gutman, who is the spark of that team right now and being the workhorse. Someone texted me the other day and said, I hope you were able to kind of spread that magical dust, because that was kind of how I was as an AU player, right? I wanted to kind of lead by example and lead by action, not necessarily with my talent, because I had more talented guys around me. Andrew has now taken that role in of being the guy that he's going to work his tail off. And as long as he does that the whole entire game, it kind of builds off or kind of spreads out to everybody else and allows those talented guys to create their magic.
So, Greg, then let me ask you this. Have you seen in your career, and this is kind of a question that's in our Twitch pitch as well, so I'm taking that question and kind of turning it a little bit.
Yep.
Have you seen players in your career who were fantastic practice players? They were great Ranger Ricks. I mean, they're out there, and they're striping at 300 off the tee, but, when it gets into game state, for whatever reason, that doesn't translate. Then how do you take those individuals and work on that so they can become that player that they are in practice if they're not that player already in games?
That's a really, really good question, because I think there will always be good practice players, and I think there will always be really good game players. Not every great practice player is going to be a good game player, and that's the easy answer. There are some guys that will absolutely shine within training, but I think probably one of the most important things that I look at is just that mental aspect and the mental side of it, of how to transfer that, that work ethic and whatever is happening in training in a game, because it's so much different, right? There's so many external and exterior factors that you have to go through to kind of, create that consistency of success within a game. So it's a really hard question to answer, because I think there will always be really, really good training players, but at the same time, that's not ultimately what matters. What matters is how you perform within a game. And obviously I always look at how you practice is how you play, but a game has so many external factors that come with it, that sometimes doesn't allow you to do those same things that you do within training.
Jillian, we had breaking news, and we actually do have a breaking news sounder that we started the show with this morning. The Giakoumakis visa was approved.
Oh, okay. I saw as of yesterday it was not.
So
what does that mean for this weekend?
According to the release from Atlanta United, and I'm reading it off the Twitter, so therefore it must be true if it's on the Bird app. Yorgos Yakimakis visa approved, comma, available to make debut against Toronto FC.
Okay, so coming off the bench.
So Tank might be available for a cup of coffee against Toronto FC. The new DP striker might be available for, say, 30 minutes or so. So Yakimakis, Jillian, is officially official.
I'm excited for that. I covered the Old Firm Derby for CBS this year, and I had to get very much up to speed on Rangers Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
And in my research on Celtic was Yakimakis, and I'm like, he stood out to me because, like, what a name. And then I was looking at him, and I'm like, he's kind of an interesting body build for a striker, and I'm watching this guy's highlights, and then I put his name out of my mind forever, like I did everybody else in the Scottish Premiership, minus, like, James Sands, who we're talking about again.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he arose with Atlanta United chatter, and I think that's so cool. I think that's exciting, and he looks great. And I'm really excited for Atlanta United to have that type of striker, and I'm excited to see how he connects with everybody. Got to give him time, right? It won't be fair to make him the new Joseph, because in so many ways he's not Joseph. They're totally different players, but I'm excited to see a potentially exciting goal scorer at Atlanta, because we know that that's what everybody loves.
No doubt. And Greg, what you've got with possibilities up top now is when Derek Etienne Jr. gets to full song, you're going to have somebody who's going to be going north-south. You're going to have Andrew Gutman with those inside runs, almost like as a center striker back, working that inner channel. You've got Thiago Almada, and who I guess would be, in Jillian's parlance, Justin Jefferson of Atlanta United, perhaps.
I like that.
You're going to have Brooks Lennon on the right-hand side with crosses working inside. Luis working off of that on the inner channel, setting up his left foot. And Yakimakis there in the middle as that. Basically, I mean, there's a reason he was nicknamed Tank. Because, I mean, it's a different body set right there at striker. So you're going to have a lot of different options now for Atlanta United when all those guys get to full song, Greg.
I think it is a new beginning. And I said this before the season started, right? It's a very new beginning because there's a lot of unknown. I have never seen Yako play in my life. I'm sure the 70,000 people that are going to the stadium have most likely never seen Yako play in their life. A lot of the new players really set the bar pretty high within that 2017-2018 season, which nobody who went to Bobby Dodd knew who the heck Miguel Almiron was. No one in Bobby Dodd knew who the heck Joseph Martinez was. So those guys set the bar very high from the very beginning and from the very get-go. So I would say that there is a lot of pressure on Yako to perform and to achieve something that is, expected. Like I said, there are a lot of expectations to take over that position. So, I'm interested to see what he contributes and what he brings to the table, not only as a former player, but also as a fan. I want to see what he's able to provide for the team. And I think like I said, there's so many interesting pieces that they have built around him and how he can kind of integrate himself the easiest and the best way possible to hopefully bring success, mid-season, I think would be really, really cool to see.
Greg Garza, Beyond Goals Mentoring, Jillian Sakovits, MLS Season Pass on Apple TV Plus, hanging out with us here on a Freestyle Friday. And Jillian, to Greg's point, with all these new faces, a lot of that has to do with Garth Lagerwey's entry now and what Garth brings to the table to be paired with Carlos Bocanegra and the folks on the player side and player acquisitions. You've got Garth now, who's on the soccer side, on the business side for the first time, but you know that Garth has his fingerprints and his input there as well. It's interesting to see how Garth Lagerwey will now impact this organization in this new chapter.
Yeah, I mean, the elite team, everybody can talk about the LA Galaxy, five MLS Cups to their name. Everybody can talk about the new buzz with LAFC, completing the double last year. But the team to be, big picture, is the Seattle Sounders. When you look at a team that won CONCACAF Champions League, has missed the postseason once in the time that they've been in the league, was just at the Club World Cup. That, if I'm an MLS team, is big picture who I want to be. And the fact that Arthur Blank was able to get, the guy that has time in and time out created that roster, is very, very, very exciting. And look at the Seattle Sounders, who made it as in the postseason as an expansion team back in 2009. And everybody was pumped when Atlanta United did it in 2017 because it's not typical. But this is a team that's kind of been doing it. So I'm really happy that Atlanta United, they kind of had that lightning in the bottle, that buzz. And now they have like the perfect person who knows how to do it long term as well. And I think that that's a really exciting combo. And I think it's great too with, the Gonzalo Pineda connection as well, that these are two guys that know each other and have worked together before. And then adding Carlos Bocanegra to the mix, who has been at the organization since, they started playing. It's a good feat. And I don't think that saying, all right, well, let's let now these guys get a year under their belt is in anybody's plans. And I like that. I don't think that would be appropriate for this fan base. This is a team right now that a roster that should have, now, are they going to go to MLS Cup? I don't think so. But this is a club that should have meaningful success this year.
Greg, when we talk about change and when you talk to your mentees about change and new beginnings and things like that, what are those conversations like when you might have a mentee who's worried about starting with a new team or a new club, or you've got a new coach and you don't know how you're going to integrate? What are these conversations like with your mentees in these kinds of situations? I know obviously we're comparing Major League Soccer to club level in college and high school and stuff, but what are these conversations like with your mentees about new beginnings and how to integrate and the anticipation about what could be?
Yeah, I think it's a very simple answer is first impression. First impression is everything. I always say the best piece of advice is always the first impression that you give and the last impression that you leave somewhere. Because that's what really states and kind of sends a message towards the type of person that you are going to be, not necessarily as the player, right? And Michael and I speak about it all the time in regards to, how to earn someone's respect. And a lot of players earn people's respect by just being a great person, while some other players earn people's respect by being a great player. And there's two ways to earn that respect on the field. It's about creating a good balance, between both of those things. So integrating and being in a new environment and going into a new environment where you don't know many people, or you feel kind of out of place in the beginning, is all about that first impression of looking everybody in the eye, shaking hands with coaches. And that was kind of all of us. If I look back at that 2017 season, the only person I knew going into that locker room was Tito Villalba, and he was with me for maybe 2 months when he was on loan in Tijuana. But other than that, it's all about those very first impressions that you give off to other people on knowing, okay, I'm gonna have to be with this guy for the next year or so. So, that's extremely important in my mind. And I'm hoping, and from the looks of it, it seems that, Jaco has a pretty good head on his shoulders, and he seems that he's integrated well with the team. He seems like he's a pretty funny guy from the interviews that he's given so far. So I'm sure he's kind of given that goofiness off and rubbed off on people in the locker room. And that's the camaraderie that you need. That's the gelling that you need from the very get-go from a guy who comes in as a big name and as a big forward. Joseph was able to do that extremely well. He was great with people off the field. On the field, he was an a-hole, right? But he wanted to win at all costs. And that's a talent that we can't teach either, right? He didn't care who you were. He didn't care who he was playing with. He wanted to win at all costs. And, there's only a few players that I can think of that kind of have that mentality. I'd say, Michael Bradley was one of those guys, Clint Dempsey, one of those guys, Joseph, one of those guys that, it doesn't really matter who's in front of them. They will do whatever it takes to win if it's a small-sided possession drill within training. And I'm hoping that, Gigi is able to kind of, use those guys as not necessarily as an example, but a path to follow while being here at AU, because I think it's much needed at the moment. I think I saw in comments of, one thing that really sticks out to me is when Barco was here for his last season, when Luis Araujo came, that really took a lot of pressure off of Barco. And I think that was Barco's best season as an AU player. I am hoping, and I think so highly of Luis Araujo's talent but I think he really feels in this moment that he has to be the guy to resolve games. He has to be the guy to change the game within a split second, and he's putting way too much pressure on himself from looking on the outside in. I think Gigi is going to be a great asset to Luis Araujo because he is going to take a lot of that pressure off of his shoulders. And maybe the pressure can be, and he will be okay with having the pressure on his shoulders as that big time forward, which will allow Luis Araujo to kind of play more in a free role and create more chances rather than being and thinking that he has to be the guy to resolve every single game.
And he wants to.
That sounds exciting to watch. I would love to see that. Yeah. Wait, Greg, I have a question for you. So if you mentioned first impressions, when you got to Atlanta, who gave you the best first impression, and then who surprised you afterwards?
The best first impression I would probably say would be you always try and pick out the jokesters, right? Chris McCann and H.H. Harrison Heath and Tyrone Mears, those guys, and Ty Mears. Those guys really stuck out to me because of how goofy and how funny they were from the very beginning. And within a locker room, no one is ever serious, right? Within a locker room, no one ever takes anything seriously. And you need those guys to kind of have that goofiness and have that, everything's a joke, but they still know the time to be serious. That for me is massive. A guy that surprised me is Mr. Larry, Jeff Larinowitz, where probably the very first impression that you get from him is that this guy is probably not ever going to talk to me. And I'm sure everybody probably thinks that.
Yeah.
And if you actually sit down with Larry or with Jeff for, 15 minutes and have a conversation with him, at the end of my time at Atlanta United, he was by far the funniest player and the most intelligent, intellectual player that I ever played with in my whole entire career. And I always called him he was like Napoleon Dynamite, right? The very first impression that you get from him is that he's kind of, out of, outside space, kind of different. But, he was a guy that was able to bring so many people together and just the way that he was on and off the field.
Yeah. Jeff is a classic. That's for sure.
No doubt about it.
That's a good one.
Jillian, thanks for coming on this morning. Just know that since you have golden ticket status here.
What is golden ticket status?
What it means is that you can dive in anytime. Basically, you can crash the party unannounced.
Oh, wow.
You can sit here and it's like, I've got something I have to get off my chest. And so at any moment, when we are on the air, reach out to me. You know how to reach out to me and go, Nelson, I need to get something off of my chest. Send me the link to log into the show.
What John is saying is that you want to see more of your cats.
She's only one cat. She's just so many personalities that you would think she's multiple cats.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Greg has golden ticket status. Parky has golden ticket status.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is big.
And I will give you John Schuster, the Olympic curler, has golden ticket status. He's been on the show. He came in last week for our preview. We were talking to John Arnold, and Schusty literally crashed the show in the middle of the John Arnold segment. And since John is a Minnesota United guy, and John Arnold was a part of the FC Dallas crew, they actually talked FC Dallas and Minnesota United on the show last week as John Schuster, the gold medal curler.
Oh, wow.
Crashes the show. That's what we're talking about here with golden ticket status. Anybody that wants to get something off of their chest or wants to grill Greg Garza on a Friday or Michael Parker's can do exactly that anytime.
Thank you. I'll use it.
And that's what it is here for. Quick promo before you go. What's going on with Season Pass this upcoming weekend?
Well, like I mentioned, MLS Season Pass will be on from 4:15 p.m. Eastern onward because we got LAFC taking on Portland. And then we preview every single game throughout the entire night. So that's very fun on MLS Countdown. And then at the end of the night, we have MLS Wrap-Up, which most people in Atlanta are probably sleeping for. But it's going to be on demand the next day. And that's an every single goal recap show.
And some of our listeners and watchers are saying that they want to know what's next for Apple TV, and they are suggesting that SDH be a part of Season Pass.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Be the morning show on MLS
I would
Season
love that.
Pass, and that's what Golden Ticket status is for. Jillian, great to see you as always. Great to see you on Season Pass on Apple TV Plus. Do not be a stranger under any circumstance. Just reach out anytime and you can parachute in, and we'll talk stuff.
Thank you, John. Bye, Greg. Bye, guys.
See you. Good to see you, Jillian. Have a good day.
So there's Jill. So question for you, sir, before you go.
Yeah.
And it comes from Ricky Ricardo. What does Greg think of Miggy's success at Newcastle? I'm sure he's not surprised, but it's pretty awesome to watch.
Great name, by the way. Great, Ricky Ricardo. I will say this before somebody asked about Apple TV.
Yeah.
I will be completely honest with you, and there is no way I would ever pay Apple TV to watch games. But if you are T-Mobile,
oh, that's true. Absolutely. Yeah.
Get Apple TV for free, and I am T-Mobile, so I get to watch the MLS for 1 full year. Then after that, I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
Well, no, here's what you do, and I'm just going to say, maybe you should just change your phone number to get a new phone. You know, like the old phone that you have, and it doesn't exist anymore. You just get a new phone. You get two T-Mobile with a new number. That way, maybe I see. I'm not recommending this.
I just found that out the other day. So if you are T-Mobile, guess what? You get to watch MLS games for free this year. So that's always.
So I'm not recommending this kind of behavior. I'm just saying that if you get it free for a year with a phone and a phone number,
very true.
Perhaps, I don't know if they can. Maybe if you sit there and it's like. Whatever your phone bill, it's like, okay, so if your phone bill is sent to a Greg Garza, maybe next year the new phone and the new phone number goes to a Gregory Garza.
Yeah, and then you use my middle name, Martin Garza. There after that.
So year 3, year 3, you go Martin Garza. Year 4, you go Marty Garza. I mean, it would get a little chaotic for those of us that have your cell and know what your cell number is.
There you go.
But
to answer Ricky Ricardo's question, I find it fabulous that Miggy is doing great there. I root for him always. I always send him messages, tell him how proud we are of him. And I think it was a building phase. There's not much to do in Newcastle. You don't have much to do within Newcastle. So I'm really glad that he was able to kind of use those first couple of years to build into what I believe he deserved this year, and finally having a team that is, very competitive and having a team that can compete with the big dogs. For the longest of times, I always said it was really hard because of the environment that he was in to kind of be that guy that shines. But I think a lot of pieces within that team has allowed him to really bring out the best of who he is as a player. And they have also found out as an organization how to use him best. Because I think he's been able to really grow into that role.
Yep. So what's going on with Beyond Goals with you and Parky these days? I know high school season is right in the heart of region play right now. What's going on?
Same old. Obviously, continuously building on both sides of it for the for-profit and nonprofit. It's been extremely fun. To help kids and give back to the game what gave so much to us, and we love what we do. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
There you go, Greg Garza at BG Mentoring on the Twitters. Greg, as always, great to catch up with you and Parky. And you didn't know it was going to be a 3-way dance when you crashed in this morning, did you?
I had no idea. It was great to see Jillian. We always text each other, and obviously extremely proud of her. Of how far she's come. I know she's an extremely hard worker. So anybody who wants to be in that realm or within that business as well, she goes above and beyond. She does her homework. She does extra. It's just like I said with players, right? These players that are waking up at 5:45 to do a little extra to be successful at what they want to be successful in. She's the prime example of wanting to be successful in where she is right now. And I know she's an extremely hard worker. So kudos and congratulations to her.
And we will be seeing you. Are you going to be at the Toronto FC match this week?
I will not. I will be in Birmingham, Alabama, because my son has a tournament there. So, yep.
So Greg Garza will be watching on MLS Season Pass on his phone.
I might be helping coach my kids. So, if I have it on the bench, I might be Both.
Greg Garza and T-Mobile and MLS Season Pass on Apple TV Plus. We'll catch up with you, my friend. Have a fantastic tournament. May everything be safe and may everything end up on the back of the net.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man. Take care. Always good to see you.